Welcome to the Sur-thrival Guide podcast, a short series of daily impactful episodes full of ideas and tips on how to thrive in survival mode during the corona crisis. Every weekday, with the help of a special guest expert, we'll be exploring different tools to add to your Sur-thrival toolkit. So strap yourselves in and get ready to be inspired as we show you the way to Sur-thrival. Welcome everyone to the Sur-thrival podcast. I'm Mark Stavina, and before I introduce our very special expert guest today, I want to remind you that this podcast is based on the ebook that's out now, the Sur-thrival Guide. It's yours for free. You just need to download it. If you haven't done so already, the link is below or somewhere. We'll get it to you, don't worry. And the intention of the podcast is to take a deeper dive into some of the topics that are discussed in the Sur-thrival Guide with the help of an expert. And today's topic is, I think, one of the most important topics, not just during this challenging time, but in general, in life, in terms of fulfillment and happiness. And that is kindness and contribution. And there's none better than Sebastian Terry to talk about kindness and contribution. Mr. Kindsome himself, entrepreneur, surfer, jet setter, international rugby star. I mean, the list goes on. A dear friend of mine, Sebastian, thank you for joining us, buddy. Welcome.
Hi, mate. That's very lovely of you. Thanks for having me.
Mate, I know you're a man in demand. You're a very busy guy. You're being pulled from all angles. You're up to big things. You're creating some great projects. So this is perfect that the Sur-thrival podcast is intended to be short form, just golden nugget after golden nugget of tangible takeaways for our audience to go and apply to their life immediately. So on that note, let's dive into it. So tell the audience, yeah, good. Time is tight, buddy. You know, time is now. So Sebastian, let's tell the audience a little bit more about you and just give us in the briefest form possible your story. How did you end up here? 100 Things and Kindsome.com.
Just over about 10 years ago, I lost a friend of mine, and it made me reconsider how I was living. And I realized that I wasn't living well. And by that, I was just unhappy. So I created a list of 100 things that I thought I could pursue, and it would bring more happiness to me. So I dropped everything in my life to pursue this list of bizarre things. And, I ended up delivering strangers babies and walking across a country and living on a deserted island by myself. A lot of sort of self-indulgent things, actually, that were just serving to myself. And then at one point, very naturally and without planning, it sort of switched. And as well as ticking things from my list, I began to hear a lot of people saying, hey, I have a list. Can you help me do my things? And I said yes. So I did. And I just started traveling around to help other people with their lists. And fast forward now to where we are today, and not only have I done a lot of things on my list, it's been turned into books, and I do a lot of speaking, etc. But I've sort of created a community of like-minded, kind people who not only are doing their own things from their own list, but are reaching out and helping people externally too. So I call that Kindsome. So that's me in a nutshell. And now I'm in a sauna.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about your peculiar background. I didn't think this is one of the backgrounds that are offered on Zoom right now, the sauna look, but it's good. I hope it's not on. Is it on?
It's not on. It's not on, but it's tiny, so it's gaining heat as we speak.
Well, again, we're going to keep this as brief as possible, my man. Well, thanks for that little bio. There's so much more to unpack with Kindsome, and for those that are watching now, obviously, you're going to look into Sebastian Terry's life, and do check out 100 Things and the origins of that, how he came to where he is. But I love the Kindsome piece that you've just organically transitioned into, right, mate? And one of the things on your list was helping someone. And that gave you the most fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't helped anyone other than myself. I always talk about the oxygen mask analogy. Yep. When you're on a plane, they'll say oxygen mask will fall from the ceiling, put yours on first, then help others. And so my list, in a sense, was me putting my mask on. And then, as I said, I found myself in situations where I was helping others. And the first time was me helping a guy called Mark complete a marathon or a half marathon. He has Lyme disease and he's a quadriplegic, and he asked me to push him. So I pushed him, and I just remember being filled with a sense of purpose that I'd never felt before, and it was addictive. And so I haven't stopped trying to do that for as many people as I can. And thankfully, it's yeah, I don't know, it just happens every single day. But I guess like back to kindness, and it's odd because I always used to think, and we tend to think that it's something that you have to do. It's a financial donation to a charity, that type of thing. And it's not. You don't need money to be kind. And kindness isn't only going externally, it's being kind to yourself. And so the whole concept of, look, I'm in a sauna at the moment. We're all in isolation in some way, shape or form. And now's the perfect time to think about all that stuff. How to be kind to yourself and others. And it's very easy to do both from isolation. I think there's this kind of this mindset at the moment that because we're in isolation, everything is doomsday, and we can't do half the things we used to be able to do. But the truth is, the important things that as humans we are wired to do are absolutely on the table and available to us still. Yes, you can't go and drink at a bar. That's not crucial. Outside, of course, there are so many things happening of a very negative nature, people losing jobs and people dying and stuff like that. But if you're able to, I think, get the right mindset, which of course, having read your Sur-thrival book yesterday, by the way, which I love and looks brilliant, and I'm not saying that for people.
That one?
Absolutely. No, I agree with so much stuff in there. You're right. This is actually a time to sit down or stand up and think about what's really important to yourself, because that is a form of kindness, and we have time right now to do that.
Well said. Thanks, Seb. And you've answered probably all the rest of the questions I had for you, but we'll go over that again just so that people have those takeaways, because I am going to ask you to give some tips on kindness and contribution that people can apply right now. But you mentioned before being kind to yourself, and that's what I mentioned in the book as well. Kindness is about being kind to yourself right now and reflecting inward. And I talk about that and taking the time. The reason I call it Sur-thrival is because a lot of our survival instincts are kicking in because of the fear. Either fear of our own situation and the reality that's hitting, as you mentioned, people losing jobs, people losing loved ones to the actual virus itself, and also fear of the fear that's being created by everything out there. We don't need to go into that. We're surrounded by it. But first and foremost, that oxygen mask analogy is perfect. So putting the mask on yourself, sometimes people are finding themselves at home now all of a sudden with their 3 kids surrounding them and trying to occupy them as well as get work generated. They might have a partner who has been furloughed right now, who's not working. So all of a sudden, a chaotic environment. It's important to be kind to yourself, to take time out and just reflecting inward, like you mentioned, Seb, about what's important to me. Okay, given what's going on, moving forward, what am I focusing on? That's being kind, right? That's being kind. So while we're talking about this situation, I'm curious just to get your perspective. So what's a typical day in quarantine for you right now? What does that involve?
Again, forgetting everything else that's going on in the world, for me personally, I've never been this productive in my life or creative. I get up in the morning, I'll have, podcasts, maybe sort of stuff that littered through the day. And then, no, I'm just working. I'm working. I'm working out. I'm fortunate to have a little outdoor area out here. And I'm playing cornhole with my isolation buddy. So I'm working with a guy called Toddy, who flew in from England to help out with Kind to 100 Things. And the day before the borders shut to England, actually, they shut here for people coming in from England. So I've just been working from 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning till last night I was trying to school myself on a new Zoom technology thing, till about 11 o'clock, and that's it. So I'm a little. I can see I got some bags here. I've just been at it. And I've just been keeping my mind busy. And to your point, it's just interesting with there's so much. I think when we were chatting yesterday, I used this term, and I like it because it's got a big word in it. But this vicarious trauma, that I think maybe it's not exactly that by definition, but we're being told that times are terrible, and everyone's in doomsday and be fearful, and anxiety is through the roof, and all these things. And I'm not sure that's absolutely true. And I think maybe for I'd say in large part, if it's true, it might be just because everyone's telling everyone to be so fearful. And yeah, there's so much that you can do, and connecting with loved ones and all the things that people are, we're seeing on Instagram and in feeds, people dancing in the streets or whatever. But we're finding that people, of course, want to connect. I mean, that's in my belief what we want to do. That's what started my list. I wanted to connect with myself, and then in helping people, I want to connect with other people. We're born to connect, and so we're doing things like I was thinking maybe 3 weeks ago. I was like, oh well, I wonder, there must be people in isolation who are celebrating their birthdays by themselves. I wonder if that's true. So I put a thing out there on my social media. Hey, is anyone out there celebrating a birthday? A mother of a 12-year-old turning 13 or 11 turning 12, her name was Kaylin, said, it's Kaylin's birthday coming up. Can we do a surprise call? So I said, absolutely. So we organized a Zoom call. Kaylin had no idea, the young girl. And then I just invited everyone from our community to come on. And I think there was like 25 people or something on a Zoom call waiting there. Everyone all dressed up, and on Zoom, the tiles, everyone was just there. And then surely Kaylin came on with her mum. We all said, surprise, sang happy birthday, and then had a dance song. And then we all left. And everyone during that time was dressed up, going crazy, dancing aggressively. And then at the end of that, Kaylin started crying on camera. Then all the other people said, this is great. Can we do it again? So I was like, okay. And so we've done heaps, and people all around the world, France, Albania, Finland, Australia, South Africa, the US, Canada, and people keep coming in. And so again, just, I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but connection is so key. And in these times, it's such a great opportunity just to think about, well, what are the values that are close to me, and how can I still represent them? I'm probably going to have to do it in a different way, but that's fine. And so it's about, this is just such a big metaphor for any struggle in life Stabby, gee, you broke your bloody neck playing rugby, and you transitioned, and you had to, because something happened, and you weren't, you didn't just go, oh, well, the world's terrible, therefore I can't play rugby anymore. For everyone watching, by the way, Mark Stabina played rugby for Australia. That is no mean feat at the highest level. And then you transitioned, and you did it because there was an opportunity, and you looked at it with the right perspective. And this is no different.
Sebastian, thank you again. By the way, you always introduce me, and I always get shy about it, as Commonwealth Games bronze medalist.
Commonwealth Games bronze medalist. Well, no one in America knows what a Commonwealth Games.
So there it is. I'm just going to give it to you. I got no use for it. You seem to be more excited than I am. But before, I just want to unpack. There's so much to unpack with everything you said. Thank you for all of that, because, one of my questions to you is, why is kindness so important? Not just during this time, but just in general. I think you answered that perfectly. You talked about connection. But before that, with the vicarious trauma, was that the term you used, vicarious trauma? Listening and being scared because other people are scared, and feeding into and being affected by everything else that's going on, and the fear that everybody else has. And again, that's what I talk about in the book, is controlling the controllables, right? That people are worrying about things outside their control. And everything you just said was an example of, you're doing what you can control. You are just, okay, how can I help? How can I help myself? What can I control? And let's just get busy. So that's why I loved you sharing your typical day, because it's inspiring. You're in a different situation, work-wise and financially. You're an independent contractor, you know what I mean? So you've got to find a way. You've had loads of work canceled because travel is a big part of your work. So it's inspiring to hear how you are navigating that, and give other people ideas on how to do that as well. And back to the kindness thing. So that was another question, is what kind of things are you creating with Kindsome? And the birthday parties are brilliant. Are there any other projects that are kind of in there, apart from just the virtual birthday parties that Kindsome?
We were doing a lot of kids content. So we were putting on, content for parents to come in and drop their kids off so they could have an hour respite as they go and, work or whatever. Yeah. But that ended up being, there's so much stuff happening that we had to stop that. As I mentioned to you yesterday, I'm kind of stopping podcasts at the moment, just because, again, the great things, but I'm trying to be really diligent with my time. And again, it's a period of just creation. And for me, I know. So I'm trying to be as diligent as possible. But look, I think as you know, thinking about someone who's listening to this, what else can they get involved with? Well, if they want to join a party, of course, let me know. I'm sure you'll share my details. Yeah. But outside of that, it is the perfect opportunity to create a list. And it doesn't have to be 100 things. It could be one. And, you know, how do you do that? Well, I think there's 4 steps that anyone can take in isolation to create a list. I think the first one is give yourself permission, which is easier now in these times. You don't need to lose a friend or someone close to be diagnosed with an illness or yourself come to some sort of adversity. Okay. Why do we do that? Do it. Give yourself permission to sit down with a pen and paper. Reflect on where you've been. I'd say start with writing a eulogy. Pretend that this corona was going to kill us. Just pretend this was, you know, you're gone. What does your eulogy to this point look like? Well, truthfully, and I did this when my friend passed away and I didn't have a great result. I read what I'd written down that would be my truthful eulogy, and it didn't say Seb was a great family member, Seb was ambitious, chased his dreams, a good community. It was Seb never really backed himself. It was a shame he didn't do that. He didn't stay in touch with his friends and blah, 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 blah. So that was an amazing reflection piece for me. So that's step 2. Because if you understand where you've come from and where you are currently, you can then go, well, where do I want to be? And that is goal setting. So I think step 3 is understanding your values. What's important to you? What are the pillars? What are the things that really... And this, again, is in your Sur-thrival guide, I noticed yesterday when I was writing. And when you understand your values, you can then make list items, goals, your dreams, your aspirations based on those. And that's the 4 steps to creating. So permission, reflection, values, creating a list. And then there's another 4 steps to activating it, which is, I think you just choose one, you do an action plan, considering the who, what, where, or who, what, when, sorry. And then you just pull the trigger, go for it, being step 7 or step 3 of that process. And step 4 is going back to the beginning and doing it again. That's what people can do. That is the easiest way to be kind to yourself right now. Come up with one goal. Position it as if Corona is going to kill me and I'm dead in a month, what do I want to do right now? And usually it's about connection. It could be anything, but it could be, you know, get dressed up as a cowboy and have a cowboy fight in your, I don't know. It could be anything. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that answers my question of what can people do right now, right? So those 4 steps, 2 times 4, the 4 steps of the list, then activating the list, which is very important. I mean, I bet there's a lot of people out there that write a list, but then they don't execute. So, you know, what's the point? It's all about action and execution. So thanks for sharing that, Seb. And one more comment on what you're saying. I want to bring it back to your analogy of the oxygen mask on yourself before then putting the oxygen mask on others. So in terms of being kind to others and figuring out how can I be in more contribution out there, get clear in yourself, put the mask on yourself so that you can. And even just that, right? When you are looking after yourself, you're just more joyful and you're more pleasant to be around, which is being nice to others, right? It's when people are within themselves and energetically they're not feeling great and they're putting that out there and it affects the people around them. So that's brilliant, mate. All right, well, finishing up, how can we all support Kindsome and you moving forward and what you're creating?
I just think if anyone wants to get in touch, please do. And that's it. I mean, I just want people to be living as great as they can be, and we all can be. And I think it does come down to creating a list. And then once you've done that and you looked at yourself, it's time to help others, and you'll feel the right time when it's here. So yeah, how can people support me? Well, I don't know. I go to the site. There's so many things. I mean, we obviously do like a bunch of online workshops and stuff like that. We work a lot with corporates. I do a lot of speaking. If anyone's interested in that, let me know. But yeah, I just think it's all about connection. So I think simply just connect with me.
Oh yeah, and I have to, the Kindsome, but obviously amazing speaker. I've seen Sebastian in person. So those of you watching now thinking, oh, I need a motivational speaker for our company or our group or team, look no further than Sebastian. So all those details will be there for people. Seb, thank you so much. And like you said, you don't do podcasts anymore, so we feel very honored and privileged to have to scrape in there and get you before you go on your podcast diet. Thank you so much. And what a great way to kick off the Sur-thrival Guide podcast. Have a great day, buddy. Keep doing what you're doing. And thank you to our listeners and viewers out there supporting us. Share this with as many people as you can. Spread the kindness, spread the love, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, Seb.